So, Frank, everybody just got introduced to you just a second ago. Nikhil, if you'll just take a second
Sure.
to introduce yourself. You have an amazing job. I'm very jealous because you get to talk to people from all over the world, biggest brands, and get them to spill all their secrets to you. So it's a fascinating role with Forrester as a senior analyst. But yeah, if you take just a second to kind of catch everyone up to like what you do, I
Sure.
think it'd be helpful.
Sure, yeah. First of all, thank you for having me, and amazing keynote.
Thank you.
You didn't really speak about the Louvre at the end, but what I assume you were saying is that pyramid is a reflection of the past.
There, you got it.
Which I thought was brilliant. So anyways, great to meet you all. Thank you for coming here today and spending some time with all of us, and thanks again to Botify for the invite. So I'm at Forrester Research. I speak to you all and your peers daily about the problems that you're trying to solve with organic search, with paid search, with social, with retail media, with TV advertising. We'll focus today on SEO. I speak to your agencies about what they wish you did better. I speak to your vendors about how to spend more money and this and that. So I speak to all sides of the ecosystem, and I'm here as a sort of impartial observer to share what I'm seeing.
I love it. And Frank, as you just met him, if you haven't met him before, it's a brilliant SEO, somewhat okay teller of dad jokes. An all-around great guy at Botify. So let's jump in. So Nikhil, the first question to you is really just a general statement. Can you kind of share what you're hearing from brands about the state of organic search today?
Yeah. So the state of organic search is one of underinvestment, significant underinvestment. So I just got some data back from thousands of CMOs around the world, and specifically I cut the data for France, Germany, UK, US. On average, Forrester's clients, and this is IBM and folks in the room, Accor, Wayfair, spend about $500,000 a year on SEO, and about $100 million a year or so on paid search. SEO is obviously not tens of thousands of times less effective. So SEO has a marketing problem, ironically. That's point one about the state of organic search, is that it's significantly undervalued, underpriced. Point two is that we are diversifying beyond Google in a way that as a community we haven't ever done. And with that comes a lot of opportunity, to your point, and an abundance of questions about how to adapt. Point three is that consumer behavior is changing beneath the surface. So again, I went out and surveyed a bunch of consumers around the world, how they feel about AI overviews, Search GPT, Perplexity, Bing, and there's faster adoption of conversational search than we've seen from almost any other tech, because it obviously reduces friction. It reduces the friction of clicks, which is a challenge for advertisers, but a boon for consumers. And it allows you to have a richer, more complicated conversation in a short amount of time. And so consumer behavior is changing beneath our feet. Folks are underspending on SEO, and Google is no longer the only game in town.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you say that. Like, we'll try the bracelet thing here, but in the audience, pound for pound, as you say, is search. Raise your hand if SEO or organic search is your number one ROI channel. Raise your hand. Pretty good bit just raised their hand. I think more so should have raised their hand. But that disparity is so interesting to me. You've kind of described it as like a marketing problem that we have. So what were the numbers again? Investment between?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm seeing like tens of thousands of times less investment, literally, in SEO than in paid search. I mean, our biggest client, who has one of the biggest websites on the planet, spends less than $1 million a year on SEO.
Right.
They spend over $100 million on PPC.
Yeah, and Frank, you can attest to that as well. We talk to lots of brands all the time, and I'm there with you guys. It's hard sometimes to get even head count and the investment that you need. So it's interesting, the marketing problem that we have, because when you look at the data, the ROI from organic search is almost always one of the best for every brand.
Yeah, but just like kind of going back to even the overall theme of today being the search revolution, it's also a huge opportunity, I think, for everybody in this room, because for years SEO has been undervalued. So that's a problem. I think everybody has heard, for a long time. I know prior to working at Botify, I worked agency side, where it was funny. We had huge brands for paid search, and they would spend hundreds of millions in paid, and they'd be like, okay, here's your 200, 300, whatever our retainer was on search. But I think right now is going to be an opportunity for everybody in this room, because people are going to be asking so many questions within organizations. CMOs are going to be asking questions of what activity is going on in all of these new channels we'll call it search, or however we want to label them. And the people who are able to give the CMO answers when they are feeling uncertain are going to be the people who will be rewarded when budgets come out. And I think a pretty good kind of correlation, or similar time where we saw this, was actually in the early days of COVID, when search volume went all over the place, and suddenly all these new things that people were searching for that they hadn't been searching for in the past suddenly became huge traffic drivers for a lot of brands. And we had a lot of our the SEO teams that we work with saying, like, people were coming to me to say, like, hey, what are people searching for now? How should we be changing strategies?
Yep.
From other departments too, because it was like, well, what do we need to be stocking up on? And you're kind of going, like I said, with the whole theme, it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and just one thing I would add actually on that point, going back to some consumer data I recently got about consumers' tolerance for advertising, it's way down. I mean, trending over year over year. It's incredible to see how many more ad blockers are being used around the world, how much more often folks are clearing their browsing histories, emptying their cookie caches. So all of us are saying to the industry that the status quo of paid media as audience targeting is not satisfying, and our intent needs to be inferred more accurately, and SEO is the most effective way to do that. So consumers are, I think, in this case, leading the industry to where it needs to go.
Absolutely.
We were right that we'd get off track real quick, AJ.
Yeah.
So we've spent about a third of the time on our first question.
It's all good. Speaking of getting on track, Frank,
That's why I'm the MC.
Let's talk technical hurdles for brands that you talk to so many brands.
Yes.
So what are the technical hurdles that brands are dealing with?
Yeah. So in my role and in my team's role here at Botify, we don't get our clients' deepest secrets like you do. I wish it would make our sales a little bit easier, but we do get to hear almost everybody's biggest problems and the challenges that they're trying to solve. And I think the challenges that are relevant to the discussion here, I think one, like just at a very, very high level, is there is still just very little knowledge of when we say AI, that can mean a lot of different things. For a year, I thought we were talking about Allen Iverson. So I had to get one sports reference in. I know Julian from our solutions team got that one, but I don't know how well that one landed. But there's just a general kind of misconception, even when it comes to how these new bots are crawling your site. And what is it? We talked about this last night a little bit. I was like, what does it actually mean, to be in the LLMs? And some people will just think like, oh well, my site's been around forever. I obviously have the opportunity to be an answer when somebody's asking one of these new chatbots, and it's not necessarily true if they are not if the technical aspects of their site are not up to snuff, and they can't be or they're not accessible with the live retrieval bots that OpenAI and other bots are crawling their site. So I think that is kind of one of the biggest technical hurdles right now, is just a lack of kind of knowledge. And then a lot of the same ones that we've heard for years are going to just only be compounded now that there's going to be 20, 30, however many more bots crawling your site, is that you need to get everything crawled, indexed, and crawled and indexed to even be eligible to show up as a
Right.
as a result.
Yeah, the traditional technical SEO is kind of your first ticket to even being able to be present. Can you just go back through that because when I talk to a lot of brands, there is a big misconception about how LLMs like get your information, and you started to touch on that live retrieval.
Yeah.
If you could just kind of break that down for a minute. It's a simple concept, but I want you guys to walk away with it today because you need to be thinking about that moment for your consumer journey and your brand in general. But maybe break that down again.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, there's mainly, I know there's multiple, bots say that like ChatGPT is going to be crawling with, but they kind of now have their 3 core, one of which is the one that they use to train the LLM model itself, that they've been using for, for however long now, to actually, quote unquote, build its index of sorts that it uses to respond to, to the questions that get posed to it. But there's also its live retrieval, bot, which is what it uses when it is trying to say surface results to you. If you ask it, going back to your example about, running shoes, if you are asking it, what are the best, running shoes for training for a half marathon or whatever, whatever the case may be, and when it spits back out those results, it actually needs to do a live retrieval of all of those pages to be able to tell you things like the price and availability. And that's a completely different bot that it crawls with. And a good example of us seeing where, seeing technical challenges. We had an internal presentation from Thomas, one of our co-founders, who I know he's out there, but honestly, all I see are bright lights right now because they are shining right in our eyes.
I see a hand.
All right, yeah. I still don't, but anyway, he is there. He gave us a presentation where he kind of walked us through almost a full customer journey of what the customer journey is going to be using, say, ChatGPT in the future. And I think his example was actually backpacks, if I remember, for his daughter, searching for a backpack, and without naming them, a huge e-commerce site in the US, a top 5 site. None of its results were giving any information to ChatGPT because the live retrieval bot wasn't able to access the PDPs on that specific website. So they were there, but there was no information, available to the end user. And as a consumer, no one's going to click if you see a link and it's like, well, we don't know what the price is, we don't know what the availability is. But here's the same backpack from 4 other retailers with their price and availability.
Absolutely, yeah. Those frontier models, the data in them may be trained 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So they don't know if the running shoes are in stock or the backpack is in stock. So it's an important thing for you guys to make sure that you win at the live retrieval. So Nikhil, what are some of the questions, when we're thinking about particular industries or verticals, that you're noteworthy questions that you're getting when you're interviewing and talking to folks in industries or verticals?
Yeah, one question is about the future of AI agents, which I'm writing about right now, which you're helping me with, which I really appreciate. And the idea there is that most of the traffic to your websites are not going to be from us, but they're going to be from our agents, what Forrester calls digital doubles. And so there are questions there about, well, then what becomes of first-party data? If the traffic to our site is bot traffic, how do we sort of infer the question behind the question that leads to the site? So that's one big question I get. The other is about getting paid and organic search to work together more effectively. So there's a lot of waste across those two. Bidding on keywords that you should be focusing organic authority around, building organic authority around keywords that are less cost effective to bid on. That's a big one, which I'm calling holistic search marketing. Others call total search. And then the third big question is, all right, I understand that in a world of maximum automation, maybe my only lever as a brand is the quality of my own data. And that is my only source of moat, is the quality of my data. So how do I clean the data I have? How do I structure it to be intelligible to Bing as well as to my, CFO? So that's a big question, is data governance and data structure.
Love it. Frank, and we're getting close on time. There's no way we're going to get through all 7 questions. No worries. But let's do rapid fire for a few here, and then we can wrap up. But same to you, maybe around e-commerce or publishers. I know we have a lot of e-commerce and publishers. I had some publishers in the crowd I was talking to last night. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think on a publisher side, what we're hearing a lot is just what to do with your content and whether or not to even allow it to be crawled by the LLM bots, because there's a kind of a fear, more from the publisher side, that, again, if your content gets in, then there might not necessarily be incentive for you to click through, to the publisher site. And in some cases, if, say, a publisher is only ad supported, for instance, then that's a huge, it's a huge risk. So on the publisher side, I would say that's kind of more what we're, what we're hearing.
Okay.
On the e-commerce side, actually also hearing a lot more paid and organic cannibalization type concerns coming up. More, I would say, in the last 6 to 12 months. On the e-commerce side, an interesting one, we are definitely hearing more about other search engines instead of just Google.
Yeah.
Specifically, a lot of our clients are talking about Bing and being able, since you can just push your content directly, to Bing. We're hearing quite a bit of interest there, also because of the partnership between Bing and and ChatGPT. So we're seeing clients start to monitor too. Is the traffic share going to start shifting? I would say more so on, again, on e-commerce side when it comes to that. And third one, this isn't as rapid as probably as you wanted, so I apologize. Ironically, I would say, I have heard sitemaps come up more in the last 3 to 4 months than I think I have in the last 3 to 4 years from a lot of some pretty large brands. Because for years, again, too, I think everyone was like, our sitemaps are fine. They're good. We just put every single URL possible in our sitemaps and we send it, and we kind of hope for the best. But I would say more so, again, recently we're hearing much more concern over having more of a sound sitemap strategy, given you're going to be needing to feed all of these new bots.
So last question. I know we're over time, so we got to go rapid.
We can keep talking, though, over drinks later. So just
I was going to say, these two you're going to want to pull aside and ask extra questions to. There's a ton of knowledge.
AJ as well.
So last question, and we'll go quick here. Yeah. I mentioned, the rest of today is really about opportunity and action that you can take. What advice would you give brands on that front? Like, what is the opportunity in front of them? What actions can they take? What advice are you out there giving brands?
Yeah, so my advice is to listen more closely to the voice of your customer, which I think is always the advice I would give marketers, but it's particularly important now that it's going to be harder to detect intent. In absence of clicks, right, we're seeing the rise of zero-click searches, so KPIs like click-through rate and ranking and position become less important. You need other ways to find out what your customer is looking for and then create content that's going to actually satisfy the question behind the question. So that's the big advice, is listen more closely to your customer.
I would say, one, understand how AI bots are actually interacting with your site today is a really good first step. If you're not doing that, you have the ability to do that in Botify now. So get your data in a good place so you can actually understand what kind of impact the AI bots are having, because we didn't even get to the infrastructure concerns that we're hearing folks have regarding all of these new bots just kind of hitting the sites, in some cases harder than Google and other search engines. 2 would be have a governance plan in place once you understand how the bots are interacting with your site. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all approach to what that governance plan should be. It's going to be different for every single organization. And 3, I would say prepare your organizations for what is coming in search, because as AJ mentioned or showed the stat from Gartner, clicks might be coming down in, say, traditional search engines, but people aren't going to be shopping less. They're not going to be buying less. Conversions aren't going anywhere. So have those conversations now, because it's going to be a lot easier to, again, prepare your executives, for this kind of decentralization of search now versus waiting until 2026 and saying, oh, I've known for the last 2 years we were going to lose 25% of organic clicks. Why didn't you know that? But prepare them now, and you will be rewarded later.
So we are going to do 2 quick questions. So thank you guys for filling those out. Do that throughout, and we'll be collecting and kind of getting to your questions. And like I said, if we're not going to get to them all, if you see us walking around, come up, ask the question. Happy to chat throughout the day. So I'm going to pick a few here, 2. So one that's interesting is around bots. So are we saying that we should allow all bots from AI tools to crawl the website in order to appear? Like, and I know you're going to give the it depends.
I was
Here
going
it
to say
comes.
1054. It's the first it depends of the day.
Yeah.
But it does. No, I think they kind of, like I actually just mentioned, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all approach to how to handle the AI bots. I think what you need to understand first is what are they crawling and what are the potential rewards of allowing them to crawl your content in the first place. 20, 30 years ago, there were concerns that Google was crawling websites too much, and people wanted to stop Google from crawling their website until they realized, like, oh, no, it's actually a lot of free traffic that comes from search engines. And I think that's what you need to understand before you block any bots or just allow them all. Like, if there is going to be a reward for you from whatever particular bot it is, then yeah, I would say allow it. If it's not, or if there's not, then that would be one where you want to, to start blocking or, handling them in some way.
Yeah, your brands need a governance strategy for training and then live retrieval.
Exactly.
And you need to understand the difference between the two and have a strategy for both.
Yep.
Okay, so last question. This will go kind of to Nikhil. I'm going to tweak this slightly, but with Gen AI, it's been out in the U.S. and now it's coming locally.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? What advice are you giving for companies that want to strengthen their brand? Maybe they have web apps. Maybe like how are you advising folks to deal with that kind of sea change moment that's now showing up locally?
Yeah. The big advice is about human capital. So I think that search marketers of the future are really going to be data engineers to some extent, and that data that they're engineering is going to be the voice of the customer. It's going to be your first-party data or zero-party data, which customers willingly share with your brand in exchange for personalization. So that's point one, is upskill and reskill the role of the search marketer. I'll do some more research on that early next year as well. And then point two, goes back to holistic search marketing, getting paid and organic to work together more effectively. Because this idea of having a false choice between ranked organic links or paid results is obsolete. It's going to be a mixture of paid and organic information in question and answer format. So that necessity of holistic search marketing, I think, is even more. And then the third is to create content. Ironically, we have to optimize for natural language in the age of artificial intelligence, which I think is a bit of a paradox. But create content that's going to speak to these natural language queries that are rising, complex queries, longer queries. About 15% of queries every day on Google.com are net new. Right. That number is going to rise a lot, and the queries are going to lengthen. So changing customer behavior, changing customer language is going to mean different look and feel for your content.
Well, excellent. Thank you both. A wealth of knowledge. Like I said, corner these two. They have a lot of information to share. But let's keep moving, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.